Hello, welcome to the Payne Report episode 12. I'm your host, you already know my name, and I'm wearing my glorious SEC hat, the best conference in college football. We all know it. Can't debate it, Big Ten people. Out west, the Pac-12 definitely can't debate it. Big 12, can't even debate it. And outside of Clemson and the ACC is just the ACC. Just a bunch of teams in Clemson, that's all it is. But anyways, we are not here to talk about the best conference in the entire college football world, the SEC, Southeastern Conference. Just gonna keep plugging it there, and the probably underdog wearing my Missouri back-to-back SEC East champs shirt too. Probably a dark horse to win the SEC East this year if you look at it in that way. Not here to talk about that. Just thought I'd just point that out in this episode. In this episode, we're gonna talk about two things. At the start of the show, we're gonna talk about Julio Jones. The Tennessee Titans finally pulled the trigger on that trade. The Atlanta Falcons got a return, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And in the last half of the the last half of the show today is gonna include the build-up to Part 1 of Shawn Michaels versus the Undertaker at Wrestlemania 25, the Heaven and Hell booking, if you may call it that, if you want to call it that. We all know the saga Shawn Michaels and Undertaker had, the amazing call Jim Ross had in that WrestleMania 25. And then next year, I'm going to talk about the WrestleMania 26 match in the next episode, but it's going to be kind of like this one, to where it's not going to be just one episode dedicated to that. And then I'm also going to go into the end of the era with the matches with Triple H and just kind of recap all the end of an era thing they had there going from the back-to-back years Undertaker faced Triple H. But those couple videos are going to be out with each other, and they're going to be towards the back half of the show. So I'll talk about regular sports, and I'll talk about wrestling. And then I want to announce that the first real thing that's going to be a wrestling only show episode is going to be talking about Becky Lynch and just how she had the man persona, the gimmick that she had, and how it just took off, and how it was probably one of the hottest things in the time at wrestling, and then how WWE ruined it. We're going to talk about that in the next couple episodes, but I'll have its own episode dedicated to itself. Last episode, you heard me talk about Jeff Hardy and how WWE is basically ruining him, how I would kind of just book him to that sense. So we've seen that there. In the previous episode, before that one, I had an interview with my friend Tess, who's a runner, and just go check out that if you want to hear more about how international recruits are kind of just recruited to the States here to college. It's a really cool interview, nice listen. If you want to go just kill some time, it's a nice listen to. But anyways, let's get right into episode 12 of the Payne Report. And Tennessee Titans got Julio Jones in a trade. I believe it was around 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks, not 2 weeks ago, around 3-4 weeks ago at the time of this recording on a Sunday. And so the Tennessee Titans traded a second-round pick from this year's coming draft, and a fourth-round pick from next year's draft. And in return, they got Julio Jones and I believe a sixth-round draft pick. So they only to get Julio Jones to get a sixth-round draft pick, and everyone knows John Robinson, the Tennessee Titans GM, is always good at hitting on those late-round picks. So I think that's a good trade for them. Just going to take a little sip of this water. Not really water. It's like this weird electrolyte thingies I just put in the water, but keeps it nice and hydrated. I like that. So, anyways, I guess the expectation for the season now is pretty much, I wouldn't say Super Bowl or bust for the Tennessee Titans. As a Titans fan, I feel it is the Titans have to win the division, and they have to at least make the AFC Championship. They don't have to make it to the Super Bowl, but make the AFC Championship. I think that's a lot of Titans fans in terms of Titans Twitter are very much Super Bowl bust, Super Bowl bust, Super Bowl bust. Well, I'm not that way. I'm like, okay, on paper, the defense will hopefully take a step forward. The offense is going to be amazing this year, hopefully. Bringing in two replacements for defense coordinator and offensive coordinator is gonna have his ups and downs. I don't think the new offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans is gonna go away from what Arthur Smith did. But when you look at Arthur Smith as a offensive coordinator, he wasn't the bad. He was great. He was great. He was good. Don't get me wrong. But some of the play calling situations kind of like, what the heck? 4th and 2 against Baltimore. The fact that he just didn't yell at Vrabel for like, why are we punting the ball in the fourth quarter on a 4th and 2 with like 5 minutes left in the game? Why are we punting the ball? Made no sense to me. But that's just what happened in that game. The odd play calling of not having Derrick Henry out there on 3rd and short situations made no sense to me. So stuff like that, just obvious like that. The obvious weird play calling down the goal line too when he tried to do some trick play. It's just like, run the ball. Okay, run the ball with Derrick. You got Derrick. He's going to score. That's what's going to happen. But anyways, so you got to take into account for a loss of that, but it doesn't really hurt the Titans too bad. The offense in general should be considered probably one of the top offenses right now on paper. The expectation going into the season is that the Titans will probably have one of the top offenses in the league. I think if they... I mean, they're not going to be absorbent in terms of passing the ball 40 times a game. Another thing I want to touch on is the national media. Keyshawn Johnson in particular, the dude's a stooge. I get he played in the NFL and everything, but the dude's a stooge when it comes to this crap. He's like, oh, the Titans don't throw the ball, 20, 30 times a game. I don't see why they need Julio Jones. They're not going to throw the ball 30 times a game. The dude's an idiot, okay? If you look what the Titans needed, when the Titans throw the ball, teams would just double A.J. Brown and let the rest of the guys on the passing attack beat them. Whether it be Anthony Firkser, Westbrook Akina, or I can't remember the third one. Cameron Batson was another one they had on the roster. And then Des Fitzpatrick, who they drafted in the late rounds this past draft. So when you looked at it, the Titans needed a need at number 2. And they got Julio Jones, who can be a number 2, number 1. Can play outside with A.J. Brown, who can also play on the inside too. It gives the Titans more flexibility on offense. Let's say that, with the passing attack and the run game. So with only A.J. Brown as the bona fide receiver, teams would just double him and probably put around 7 or 8 in the box. Double A.J., 7, 8 in the box. You're going to stop. Just stop the run, cover A.J., double coverage. Probably not the best recipe for a Titans offense, basically. What the addition of Julio Jones brings in is a threat of someone that's going to help A.J. get out of double teams, because Julio's going to see his double teams. I mean, if you do double Julio, A.J. Brown's going to beat you. Double A.J. Brown, Julio's going to beat you. You don't double either of them, play man-to-man. They'll beat you over top when you put 8 in a box with Derrick. And you're like, okay, well, let's play back and play cover 4 and put 6, 7 in a box. Well, Derrick's going to eat against that. So it's very much pick your poison. That's what the Titans offense is. And the fact that Keyshawn Johnson doesn't see that, this helps the run game. This helps A.J. Brown. And this is also going to help the younger receivers too. Not only is it going to help A.J. Brown's development with having Julio Jones, who's been in the NFL for 10 plus years at this point, who's probably one of the most consistent route runners, guy that can consistently break double coverage, triple coverage, you name it. He can show these guys how to break double, triple coverage. He can show them more refined route running skills. I don't see the criticism. It makes no sense. It makes no sense to criticize the Titans for this move, because Julio Jones is a bona fide stud. He is a veteran in the league who can help develop the younger guys too. He may be 32, but he's Julio Jones. He's a generational talent. When you look at Jerry Rice, I bet you when the Oakland Raiders got Jerry Rice in a trade, Jerry Rice was much older to this point, but no one was really criticizing it because he put up a 1,000-yard season when he was 40. So Jerry Rice is a generational talent too. It makes no sense to me. So Julio Jones is a generational talent. People are saying that he's got probably 2-3 years. I mean, I could see 5 years of good I could see 5 years of Julio Jones being really, really good up to this point and probably consistently putting up 1,000-yard seasons. I could see that. Like I said, it's going to help the development of the young receivers. It's going to help A.J. Brown too. It's going to help open up Derrick. And I think this move, bringing in the potential of you got to cover 2 bona fide studs at receiver and account for... It's also going to help Anthony Firkser when you look at it too. Because if teams double Julio, leave A.J., Firkser's going to get open too. So A.J. and Firkser, Anthony Firkser is a reliable tight end. And when you actually look at Anthony Firkser, he caught the ball more consistently than Jonnu Smith did for the Titans last season. So not a slight upgrade, but he is a better blocker than Jonnu Smith. He's not as much as an athlete, but he's a consistent catcher. That's something Jonnu Smith really wasn't for the Tennessee Titans. So I don't get the criticism. I think this helps the Titans in general. In my opinion, it is AFC South division champions, and got to make it to the AFC Championship or bust this year. Super Bowl, I'm like, okay, it'll be great. I want to go to the Super Bowl. Better win it. Better not lose it again. But I'm not on the bandwagon of Super Bowl or bust. Like, no, I have high expectations for the team, but I'm not gonna be like upset if they don't make the Super Bowl. Like, yeah, I'll be like, if they make it to the AFC Championship and lose barely, like, I'm gonna be a little mad. But I'm not gonna be like, oh man, this season sucked. It was like the worst season of all time if they don't make it to the Super Bowl. Like, if they win the AFC South, it's their division to lose. The Colts have Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz forgot how to play football last year, for Pete's sake. So the fact that everyone thinks Carson Wentz is going to remember how to play football again this year and just go all out and throw like 30 touchdowns and like 10 interceptions, no, it's not going to happen. Dude's probably going to throw more interceptions than he's going to touchdown passes. Dude forgot to play football. The Jacksonville Jaguars are still rebuilding, and the Houston Texans are in shambles because they have no clue what they're doing as an organization. So it's very much the Tennessee Titans division to lose. If they don't win a division and lose it somehow to the Colts, that would be, I wouldn't consider that a successful season. They got to win a division, make it to the AFC Championship. That is my expectation for this team going into the season. And that concludes the Julio Jones talk, and now we're going to talk about Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. Probably one of the greatest WrestleMania matches, the WrestleMania 25 match. I never watched the WrestleMania 26 match. I'm going to watch that in preparation. So what I did, I went back and watched all the Monday Night Raws going up to WrestleMania 25. Couldn't do that for SmackDown. For whatever reason, Peacock on the WWE Network, I believe, runs on Peacock now, and I got the subscription to Peacock, but Peacock doesn't carry all the episodes of SmackDown from back then. They only got all the episodes of Raw. So I think they carry episodes of SmackDown up until 2014 to now, I'm pretty sure, unless there's been a change recently, but I'll take a look at that and see if I can find out for the WrestleMania 26 build-up. But anyways, like I said, I went back and watched all the Raws going up to that point, and the build-up to Shawn Michaels and Undertaker was genius. It was genius. I mean, you look at it. So right off the bat, I think they did like some sort of mini tournament. Shawn Michaels had to beat JBL, and then I beat Vladimir Kozlov to face Undertaker. So it was just trying to get Shawn Michaels to WrestleMania. I think that was kind of the little mini storyline. But basically, the match that won Shawn Michaels the right to face Undertaker at WrestleMania 25 was against Vladimir Kozlov. And I mean, the fact that Shawn Michaels is 44 and still putting on wrestling matches at this time when he was 44 was insane when I thought about it, because I looked up his age and I was just looking at his in-body work and just the way he was moving in the ring. He was moving really well for 44 in the ring. I mean, didn't lose a beat. But right out of the way, I watched this match. I watched it in general. Right off the bat, I can tell you it was a pretty boring match. I fell asleep basically. I almost fell asleep watching it. Vladimir Kozlov was never really entertaining in the ring. He had this boring, brutish style. I mean, you look back, I mentioned in my last episode with the Jeff Hardy video how he and Triple H had the most boring match of all time before Edge came in and made a triple threat, and Jeff Hardy came out of nowhere and started hitting everyone with a steel chair. So, like I said, boring match. Basically, Kozlov's just beating the crap out of Shawn Michaels the entire match. Towards the end, Shawn Michaels mounts a little bit of offense, seizes control with the elbow drop, hits Kozlov the sweet chin music, wins, and then he's gonna face the Undertaker. Also, at the time, this was ending Vladimir Kozlov's win streak. At this time, he hadn't lost a singles match, so this beat Kozlov's undefeated streak. And it's kind of like a mini, he beat the mini streak. Let's see if he can beat Undertaker's streak now, sort of. I guess that's how they sold it back then. And at least the announcers did on that particular episode of Raw. So that's how they sold it on that episode of Raw. And then Undertaker comes out. Now this is where the booking starts to heat up a little. The Undertaker comes out, and you can just kind of feel the tension. Like, this is a show from around 10 plus years ago, and I'm watching it, rewatching it. I remember watching it at the time too, when I was 8 years old. It was, you could feel the tension. You could legitimately feel the tension. At the time, you could feel the tension, and now when I rewatch it, I felt the tension that these two were gonna have a classic, be like a heavyweight battle, a battle between two heavyweights, the showstopper and the phenom. Like, you know, it was gonna happen. It was gonna happen. You know, it was gonna be a good match, and you could just feel the tension of heavyweights about to collide in a wrestling ring. The next Raw, the week after, Shawn Michaels opens the show. It's basically official now. It is the Undertaker's 16-0 streak versus like Mr. WrestleMania. They show Undertaker package of Undertaker package of his WrestleMania matches from all 16 wins and no losses. All the people he's beaten, and then so they're showing that Shawn Michaels basically has that package playing, and he comes out talking, and the package plays with Undertaker beating everybody, and then you hear the gong, and then it's like, everything goes dark, and it's like, Undertaker's gonna be right behind Shawn, and lights go back on, Undertaker's right behind Shawn Michaels, and the fact that Shawn Michaels knew, like, he no-sold it. Like, every time, especially when, I look back at it now, I was 8 years old at the time watching this, every time the gong hit and the lights went out, and then the lights came back on and Undertaker was behind someone, the person that Undertaker was behind would always just react, either get out of the ring as fast as you can, surprise him, try to punch him, and then he gets the crap beat out of him. Like, that's usually what happened. But the fact that Shawn Michaels no-sold that was awesome. And then, like, you can kind of, and then Shawn Michaels mentioning the different career, different personal paths they both taken. And he says, I have respect for you, but I'm not scared of you. And when he says that, and then the gong goes out, and the gong goes on, lights go out, and after that line, and Shawn Michaels no-solding it, you could very much see that Shawn Michaels was not intimidating. This was genius booking. This was a good build-up right now. You could just feel the tension, again, like I mentioned. You could feel the tension now, and you could feel the tension 12 plus years ago. Like, you could feel it. The next Raw, it was Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, so they were in a tag team versus JBL and Vladimir Kozlov. And throughout the match, you could feel the tension between Shawn and Undertaker. I wanted to point it out that this Raw, it just started off with just wrestling. They had like the little promo package going at the start of the show, but it basically started off with like just a wrestling match. And I kind of wanted to point out how much I kind of like that little old style booking. But anyways, Shawn takes most of the beating throughout the match. Even with Shawn in trouble, even when Shawn was in trouble throughout the entire match, Undertaker looked like he was just stalking Shawn. Like, he wanted to beat up Shawn Michaels the entire time. It was kind of funny, because usually when you're in a tag match with someone, you're like trying to like, oh, get me in a match. It's like, and when your partner's in trouble, and then even then when they pair single stars together, it's like, give me in a match, my partner's in trouble. And I just find that funny how Undertaker was like, both like, kind of get me in a match, but also I want to beat the hell out of you too. So, and then as Taker's about to look for a choke slam and then go into the Tombstone 2, look, that combo of kind of just like, the signature move sets up the finishing move. Shawn Michaels tags himself in, hits the sweet chin music, and takes the win from the Undertaker. And this was genius too. And then basically Undertaker's like chasing him out of the ring, and then chasing him through backstage, and then he chases Shawn up through the ramp, and Shawn goes backstage, and Undertaker, he turns around, puts his arm, kind of looks back at the crowd, and then Shawn Michaels comes out and sweet chin musics him. This was awesome, just the way they were booking Shawn of like this crazy man on a mission. And then it goes even more into the next Raw. Undertaker cuts a promo about Shawn Michaels kicking him, saying his obsession is going to lead him to the gates of hell. And then Shawn Michaels responds with probably one of the coolest promo packages I've seen, just in a cemetery. And he recaps all of the Undertaker's victories. And it's kind of like each tombstone is like, you beat this person, you beat this person, you beat this person. And it's like, oh, you kind of buried this person. And then he says, well, you're not going to do that to me. And then he has his tombstone made at a 16-0 streak, kicks it into the grave, and then buries it. I'm like, this is genius booking at the time. Like, Shawn Michaels playing these mind games with The Undertaker, like, we never really seen anybody get inside the mind of Undertaker like how Shawn Michaels did. I mean, it was genius booking. And I just also wanted to point out, while I was watching these Raws, I was actually watching a little bit of the other parts of the show. I mean, we had the Big Show, Edge, John Cena triple threat build up. That was alright. Didn't really care about that much. And one thing I did like was the Randy Orton Triple H. So like Triple H and McMahon versus Randy Orton and Legacy at WrestleMania. It was like the winner take all. Whoever wins the match gets the WWE Championship, basically. So I kind of like that build up too. I was going back and watching that, and I was like, that WrestleMania had a pretty cool build-up. I mean, you had the Legacy versus McMahon and Triple H, Jeff Hardy versus Matt Hardy in the Extreme Rules match. You had Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Who else? I'm trying to think of who else. I believe it was not Chris Jericho. JBL and Rey Mysterio was another one. Chris Jericho versus a bunch of legends for some reason. Didn't really get that. And then there was the Money in the Bank ladder match when CM Punk won his back-to-back Money in the Bank. And I have to say, I watched that back-to-back Money in the Bank match. Back-to-back Money in the Bank match. I watched the Money in the Bank match to start out the opener to WrestleMania 25. I'll touch on this a little bit later. But anyways, so like just kind of like I pointed out, the booking to this, the build with this was great. I mean, especially on this third Raw. I believe the fourth Raw before the fourth Raw going into WrestleMania, before WrestleMania, when Shawn Michaels comes out with that video package in the cemetery, it's kind of like this heaven and hell booking, almost saying Shawn's opening the gates of hell. It's going to lead him to the gates of hell. And then Shawn Michaels, kind of being like, oh, you go to such a dark place, but it's not going to outshine my light, stuff like that. And in the Go Home show, we're going to talk about the Go Home show too. So, this is where the kind of heaven hell booking took a step further. The Go Home, the Friday Night SmackDown before the Go Home show of Raw, Shawn Michaels mocked The Undertaker with this like heaven-like entrance. Like everyone knows Undertaker's entrance is all dark, foggy. The people wearing the druid cloaks are in all black. They have the torches. Undertaker's dressed in all black. It's very purple, very like down and light. And then Shawn Michaels mocks his entrance by dressing in. He's got this white cowboy hat on. He's got the white clothing on. He's got the druids wearing all white. It's like an all-white entrance. The lights are on. There's white fog everywhere. And it's very much like this heaven aspect of against the Undertaker's hell aspect kind of booking. Like good versus evil, heaven versus hell, dark versus light, like yin versus yang, stuff like that. That was like a kind of a good idea on WWE's booking part. So I mean, when you look at it, it was just genius to kind of mock that entrance because it was so iconic, and you just knew like the Undertaker's forces of darkness were gonna be with him, and it was like kind of like this opposite of like Shawn Michaels is like just mocking it, like his light is gonna snuff out Undertaker's darkness, and it was so cool. I like that. And then Shawn playing these mind games, just you really thought he was gonna win this match at the time. I mean, I look back on it now, and I legitimately thought as an 8-year-old that Shawn Michaels would win this match. I wanted Shawn Michaels to win this match. The mind games he played with Undertaker were genius. I mean, and I felt, watching them basically 12 years later, I felt the same way. I felt like, Shawn's probably going to win this match. He may win this match at WrestleMania. He may break the streak. And, and then the Go Home show of Raw, Shawn Michaels holding the funeral for The Undertaker was awesome. Like, it was great. They had the casket in the middle of the ring. They had, like, these posters of just Shawn beating The Undertaker. Shawn Michaels points out The Undertaker's never beat him. How his light's going to outshine Taker's darkness. And then Shawn is like, you can pop up from anywhere. And then he opens the casket and the Taker's not there. And then Lights go dark. Gong hits. Undertaker's there when the lights go back on, but Shawn's nowhere to be seen. And then we recognize the casket door that was open earlier. When Shawn opened it, it's closed now. And then everyone's like, oh, Shawn's in the casket hiding. Undertaker opened the casket. No one's there. So it's like two options. Just one option to this point, not two options. That Shawn is just gone. But what we forgot is that the casket was sitting on a table with a cloth on it, top of it. And turns out Shawn Michaels was under that. He comes out from under in sweet chin music, The Undertaker. And Shawn's music hits, and he's like doing his little dance. And then the mind games were just golden. It was amazing, the mind games Shawn Michaels was playing with The Undertaker in this build-up to this match. And then the match itself. We're going to get right into the WrestleMania 25 match right now. But before I do that, I just want to touch on the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 25. It was so cool. Just going to say, when Christian made his entrance and the pop Christian had, this was Christian's match to win, not going to lie. I feel like this is when he came back to WWE from TNA. This was after his Christian Cage run, after he held, I believe it was the NWA Championship there. And he comes back and, like, everyone's like, oh yeah, like, this is Christian's time. They're finally going to put over Christian. And then it doesn't happen. The crowd still popped for CM Punk. If Christian won, I kind of want to do a what if video of, like, what if Christian won the Money in the Bank that year? Like, could it change the alter history? I mean, when you look at it, CM Punk held on to the briefcase until Extreme Rules and cashed in on Jeff Hardy. They've done that with Christian. Christian cashed in on Jeff Hardy. Would Christian have... Oh, can you imagine the booking between Jeff Hardy and Christian? The storylines they could have booked there with Captain Charisma, the former rivalry they had. I'm not going to touch on that. But just probably, if I'm going to do a what-if video, that would probably be the first one if Christian won that Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 25. But anyways, as I was saying, WrestleMania 25, oh my gosh, Shawn Michaels coming down from the heavens on like this big thing, just descending from the heavens. They got like this holy music playing. He's got his arms in the air like this. He's looking up to the sky. He's in his all white. And then he hits the ground, and then you hear his music hit, and he's doing his, dance, and comes down to the ring. Everyone's hype. Everyone's ready to go. And then it's like, kind of just hype up. Like, it's finally here. Shawn Michaels playing one more mind game. He's ascending from the heavens. He's got this lightness that's going to combat The Undertaker's evil, The Undertaker's darkness, everything. And then the gong. Lights go dark. Undertaker makes his iconic entrance. And the feeling when the lights come back on, Undertaker's hat and just trench coat is off. Shawn's in the corner. You hear the ding of the bell, and you just see them sizing each other up, and the crowd's going wild. Oh my gosh, it was like an iconic moment in itself. Just seeing that entrance, and just both of those entrances, kind of heaven versus hell, light versus dark, yin versus yang. It was gold. It was gold. Like, it kind of makes me mad that this wasn't the main event match. Because I thought it was a main event match, and then I went through, and as I was watching this WrestleMania 25, I was like, wait a second, this wasn't the main event? It should have been the main event, because they stole the show. And I mean stole the show. Right out of the gate, Shawn Michaels using his quickness to evade The Undertaker. Shawn with the Defiant DX kind of chop, and then fakes the injury coming back down after jumping over The Undertaker. Undertaker not buying it. The iconic moment when Undertaker does the suicide dive over the top rope, and like Shawn pulls the cameraman into it, and like it looked like Undertaker just completely ate crap, and his head hit the floor. Like, I thought he broke his neck there. Undertaker barely making it in after that count. Shawn Michaels towards the end skinning the cat. Undertaker catches him, hits him with the tombstone. It's like everyone thinks it's over, and then you hear 1, 2, and then the kick out by Shawn Michaels. And the call by JR was absolutely perfect. when he just said, "I cannot believe it, I just had an out-of-body experience." Oh my gosh, I'm like, the crowd's going wild. I just had an out-of-body experience. The match was amazing, insane. Shawn hitting the speech to music 2 times, and the Undertaker still kicking out. Oh my gosh. And then the end of the match, too. Shawn Michaels going for the somersault, steal the show one more time. Mr. WrestleMania is going to steal the show to try to put the Undertaker away. Goes for the somersault and gets caught. Tombstone. 1, 2, 3. That's it. That's the match. Undertaker 17-0. Shawn Michaels failed. Even though he put on a show-stopping performance, Mr. WrestleMania put it all out there and still came up a little bit short. That was genius booking, genius booking throughout, genius build-up throughout. The match was genius. Credit to Undertaker and Shawn Michaels to just coming up with this match and just the spots and everything. I mean, they put on a hell of a show. I loved it. I was into it the entire time. And like I said, probably the moment that stands out to me is when JR said out-of-body experience. I was like, yeah, that's the best way to describe what just happened. I mean, I didn't watch WrestleMania 25 because this is back when pay-per-view, I believe, was like $50, $60. And my family just didn't pay for pay-per-view. Like, we just watched a recap on Raw and then watched SmackDown. So we didn't pay for pay-per-view. We just thought it was pointless to pay $60 for WrestleMania. And then just going back and watching this on the network and just very much kind of like, okay, this is probably one of the greatest all-time WrestleMania matches ever. And, I mean, you can see why. Shawn Michaels, Mr. WrestleMania, Undertaker works great in the ring. They had great in-ring chemistry, the mind games, the build-up, everything was great. And it's a shame we only got 2 WrestleMania matches out of this. I believe it was Shawn Michaels and Undertaker only wrestled each other 4 times. It was, I know one of them was I think a Hell in a Cell match, and another one was a casket match. And then you had the 2 WrestleMania matches. It's a shame that those 2 never met in the ring that often. I mean, it's a shame. I mean, they had such good in-ring chemistry together. The Heaven vs. Hell booking probably couldn't have done that back in the 90s, the way Shawn was going to that point. But it was, I mean, Shawn was Mr. WrestleMania. He built that. And the fact that we only got 2 WrestleMania matches out of it, that we never really got anything else out of it, like, we got the, the amazing just matches. I just wish we could have seen more matches from them to working together. Not nowadays to where it's like, rematch after rematch after rematch, but like here and there throughout the early 2000s. Like, maybe like, they had a wrestling match for like number 1 contendership or something for the title. Well, when Shawn was working, when he came back to WWE, just something. Probably like 1 or 2 more times. So the fact they only got 4 when they could have had like probably 6 or 8 matches throughout the 20-year careers both of them had at this time. I mean, I think that probably would have been cool, but I'll be happy with what we got. It was amazing. I love the match, and next episode I am going to talk about the WrestleMania 26, and the WrestleMania 26. I don't remember much of the build-up because I was moving at the time. And I just remember Shawn Michaels' career is on the line versus the Streak. And then I'm going to take a look at that build-up. I'm going to talk about that on the next episode of the Payne Report. But this is all I got for the Payne Report in this episode. Next episode, I'm going to talk about the college football playoff expansion, possibly, and how I think that's stupid. But, and then we're going to talk about WrestleMania 26, and then anything else I can find, I'm going to talk about before we talk about the Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker at WrestleMania. My bad. And just the greatness that those 2 work together in WrestleMania 25 and 26 back-to-back was just amazing. I cannot express more enough how I just wish we could have seen them work a little bit more together, probably just 2 or 3 more times throughout their careers would been pretty cool. But yeah, this is all I have for this episode of the Payne Report. Thank you for watching, and everyone have a great day.